everybody, we just got back from Illinois, a very successful hunt once again. Now the work begins. We're going to turn this deer into some venison, and I'm going to show you how to do it with one knife. Today we're going to do it with the Outdoor Edge Razor Pro, a really nifty knife, and I'm going to show you about it here first. You have a nice fixed blade, razor sharp because we can replace that blade, and then also on the flip side of this knife, that's a gutting blade, but I'm going to show you how to use this for skinning, and it works like a charm. I want to tell you, there's really not a right or wrong way of skinning a deer. Everybody has a little bit different way of doing it. As long as you get the hide off hairless, that's the most important thing. And even if you get some hair on that carcass, you can clean it up later. So the first thing what we're going to do is we're just going to make an incision right around here on both of the back legs just to get through the hide. And then after that, we're going to take a slice right through here. You see that tendon? You got to be really careful there, because if you cut that tendon, that's going to affect things and it's going to drop your deer. Okay, I'm going to come on the back side of the deer here and be real careful right by that hock and just cut that skin. See how it releases? Nice and easy with that really sharp blade. That release is just super nice. I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay, the next step is once we get these back legs free and we get, what's super nice about this is I can work this down a lot farther than I could with a regular knife, because that's dull on the end of that gutting blade, so it allows me to follow the hide right where it meets the meat. So what I'm going to do is once I get this down enough to where I can fold this over, that's when the real skinning process starts, because you start taking the whole hide off by just pulling it down. But you just work, use your knife, go slow, and just work it back. And as you go, you can we take warm washcloths to get some of that hair off. Some guys will singe it off. Like I said, there's no wrong way of doing it. As long as you take your time, you go slow, and make it as clean as possible. So here's a buddy my friend John Heaton taught me, is with a hide, if you're not going to keep the hide or you just want to damage it a little bit, cut yourself a little handle, right here, right in the hide. Hide is tough. And it's not going to rip. Not by my hand, it's not. I can get right in there, and I can just pull that right down. The other thing you got to understand is this deer's been cold for several days, and that really makes the hide a lot tighter, a little bit harder to get off. Now, another tip that you should keep in mind, yes, these knives are sharp, and yes, they have replaceable blades, but you certainly don't want to dull a perfectly good blade by cutting it through a bone like on this tailbone here. With this Razor Pro, it comes with its own little bone saw. Nifty little thing. We can get right on the tail here. We're going to save a blade on our bone, on our knife, and we can continue the process. Okay, we got the hide right past the rump. We're going to get into the chest cavity. But before we get that far, we want to make sure we prep the front legs. So what we do with the front legs, it's a lot easier to cut those off at the knees. But the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to take our knife and we're going to make a slice right around that hide so our Sawzall isn't jamming up, in the hide and the hair. It makes it a lot easier for that saw to do its work. We're going to do that on both sides. And this is going to make it a lot easier to get that hide the rest of the way off the deer. The bone is broken, we got it right through there. Now we're just going to take the knife, and we just got to cut the rest of that hide. Make it much easier to get those legs off. Okay, same thing with the front legs as the back legs. We're going to make a slice along those legs and then up so that hide can come off when we get that far. So I can go like this, come right along those front legs. And some guys might say, well, why don't you use the same blade? Well, as you see, I cut into that with that first blade. This, with that dull tip, avoids that. One knife does it all. My next cut, what I'm going to do is go right to the breastbone, and I'm going to skin that down as far as possible and help free the hide up on the brisket. Same thing other side. Your hands are going to get very cold if you're dealing, it's 25 degrees out here. Your fingers are going to get tired pulling on this hide. I use my knuckle and my fist to get in there and just push down. Again, as I say, blades get dull, but that's not a problem with these knives. I can swap it out with a new one. Once you get it this far, all you have to do is make sure you get that down as far down into the neck as possible, save every scrap of meat, and that's it. One tool does it all.